Sailors know it as the Devil's Playground. Others call it the Hoodoo Sea, Underwater Area 51, or the Limbo of the Lost. Whatever name you choose, the Bermuda Triangle is undeniably one of the most mysterious areas on our planet. According to Naval History and Heritage Command, more than 50 ships and 20 aircraft have disappeared from the face of the Earth after venturing into these waters. Other estimates point to a much higher figure, with more than 100 airplanes vanishing and over 1,000 lives lost since the 1940s. The truth is that we may never know what exactly happened to them, or what caused so many to vanish without a trace. Almost every paranormal researcher seems to have a different theory, from UFO abductions and time travel, to sea monsters and the lost city of Atlantis. So what's the truth behind the Bermuda Triangle? Let's find out. If you draw a triangle between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, you'll see the Devil's Playground, an area where dozens of ships and planes have gone missing over the years. At first glance, it may seem like any other stretch of the ocean, but its history tells a different story. Here's what we know for sure. Numerous sailors and pilots have experienced serious issues with their compasses while traveling within the triangle, suggesting some kind of magnetic anomaly. The Gulf Stream also runs through the triangle, and these strong currents are capable of pushing vessels considerably off course. People are reported to act very strangely while traveling through there, perhaps suggesting that there is some kind of unexplained force that affects the human brain. Many reports suggest sailors and pilots completely lose their minds in the Devil's Triangle. And of course, the area is home to some of the most violent weather on Earth, including hurricanes, downbursts, and huge waves. Some researchers also believe that volcanic activity within the Bermuda Triangle may present a danger to passing vessels and downed planes. They create methane hydrates that exist along the continental shelves, far below the surface. Experiments have shown that methane eruptions are more than capable of sinking ships within seconds before scattering the wreckage across the ocean. This is the basic science behind the Bermuda Triangle, and while scientific data can be a solid foundation from which to build upon, these facts often fail to explain some of the strangest tales. The truth is that science only gets us so far, and there are many other theories that venture far into the paranormal territory. But before we get into these paranormal theories, let's take a look at some of the most notable disappearances. People have been talking about the Bermuda Triangle for hundreds of years. During the late 1400s and early 1500s, Christopher Columbus reported seeing a large, fiery object and strange lights in the sky when he sailed through this part of the ocean. He also wrote that his compass readings became erratic and unreliable. Not long after, William Shakespeare wrote one of his most famous plays, The Tempest. What many people don't know is that this play may have been based on a real-life shipwreck that occurred in the Bermuda Triangle. A few hundred years later, the HMS Atlanta was sailing through the triangle when it disappeared without a trace. At that time, in 1880, people believed it fell victim to a powerful storm. Fast forward about 40 years to 1918, the year that the USS Cyclops also disappeared without a trace while traveling through the Devil's Playground. Over 300 souls were lost, representing one of the most deadly, non-combat disasters in US naval history. No one knows what happened to the Cyclops, but it's alleged that the ship lost power to one engine and failed to send out a distress signal. In 1941, almost identical vessels, the Proteus and the Nereus, vanished under similar circumstances. No wreckage of the Cyclops was ever found despite extensive recovery efforts, prompting President Woodrow Wilson to famously say, "Only God and the sea know what happened to the great ship." Whoever sailed into these waters seemed to gamble with their lives, and numerous ships were either lost or found eerily abandoned. The FBI began investigating these incidents as early as the 1920s, while most people at the time remained blissfully unaware of what was going on. Public interest climbed in 1945, when Flight 19 made the Bermuda Triangle famous around the world. To this day, Flight 19 remains one of the strangest paranormal events in history, and it has still never been fully explained. In 1945, 5 Navy bombers set out from Fort Lauderdale for a training mission, carrying about a dozen men. Like so many other sailors before them, the pilots began to experience compass problems while flying over the triangle. The flight leader then became separated from the rest of the formation and disappeared entirely. The others began to run low on fuel and presumably crashed into the ocean, but no wreckage was ever discovered, and the plane they sent to rescue the downed bombers also disappeared. The Navy claims to have no idea what happened, and later stated that it was as if they had flown to Mars. In 1964, this mysterious body of water was officially given its name by the author Vincent Gaddis, who dubbed it the Bermuda Triangle in magazine articles. By this point, 3 passenger planes had disappeared within the Devil's Playground. 3 years later, a wealthy Miami businessman sailed into the Bermuda Triangle on a yacht called Witchcraft with 1 priest on board. He later sent a distress signal to the Coast Guard, who arrived at his coordinates to find no trace of the yacht, the businessman, or the priest. An extensive search effort followed, but after days of scouring hundreds of miles, they found nothing. In the 70s, 2 more passenger planes disappeared, never to be recovered. The most recent incident occurred in 2020, when 20 people went missing after sailing into the triangle. The vessel and its crew have yet to be recovered. A vast number of paranormal theories have been suggested over the years. Some believe that there's some kind of portal or wormhole within the triangle, capable of sending ships and planes into another dimension or a parallel universe. Others believe that the triangle is home to some kind of time warp phenomenon that sends objects into another era. Many researchers have attributed the disappearances to UFOs, arguing that the reports of magnetic anomalies are clear signs of extraterrestrial presence. Many think that aliens have abducted sailors and pilots, leaving nothing behind. But perhaps the most interesting theory involves the lost city of Atlantis. Although no one really knows whether this city ever existed or where it might have been, the Bermuda Triangle often comes up in discussions about this age-old legend. Some believe that Atlantis once stood in the middle of Devil's Triangle, and they point to the Bimini Road to support their claims. The Bimini Road is one of the most fascinating underwater discoveries ever made. Mainstream science will tell you that it's just a natural formation, and that it was not constructed by humans. Other researchers argue that the rock formations are too perfect, featuring straight lines that could not have been created by natural forces. It was first discovered in 1968 by divers who described it as pavement. It's also worth mentioning that years earlier, famed psychic Edgar Cayce predicted that Atlantis would be discovered in 1968, though he died in 1945. Scientists have attempted to figure out the age of the Bimini Road, but the radiocarbon results are widely disputed. Atlantean researchers believe that the Bimini Road is actually the remains of a massive ancient harbor, as Roman and Greek-style anchors were also found in the area, suggesting the presence of a Mediterranean-like culture. Other megalithic sites have been found on the island of Bimini, with other structures in the area submerged underwater nearby. Some say that these megalithic structures are similar to those found in Egypt. What was this ancient society doing off the coast of Miami? Could it really be the site of Atlantis? And what does all of that have to do with the disappearing planes and ships? While there are many theories, most revolve around advanced Atlantean technology that remains submerged to this day. Some researchers argue that the lost technology could be electromagnetic in nature, explaining the compass malfunctions. Others claim that this powerful ancient technology may have caused the destruction of the city, and that it continues to wreak havoc on passing ships and planes. There are reports of so-called energy crystals that the ancient Atlanteans used to generate power, and some say that these energy crystals are still active, far below the surface of the water. One German diver and historian named Dr. Michael Priesinger studied the magnetic anomalies in the area. and eventually came to the conclusion that they were caused by micro wormholes. Similar theories suggest that the Bermuda Triangle might be in Aquatic Area 51, where UFOs enter our dimension through some kind of portal or stargate. In 1972, biologist Ivan Sanderson published a book called The 12 Devil's Graveyards Around the World. This book explores the possibility of not one, but 12 areas scattered across the Earth in a symmetrical formation, caused by Earth's geomagnetic fields. As you might expect, many are extremely skeptical about these paranormal theories. You should know that planes and ships regularly pass through the Devil's Triangle to this day without any issues whatsoever. You may have heard that passenger planes don't fly over the triangle, but this just isn't true. A quick search will show you that dozens of planes are passing through the area at any given time. Many scientists often sail these seas to conduct research without incident. Some skeptics point out that the Bermuda Triangle is no more dangerous than any other part of the ocean, as plenty of ships and planes go missing in other parts of the world as well. These skeptics also remind us that the so-called Devil's Playground sees more traffic than many other areas of the ocean, so we should expect to see more accidents and disappearances here. In regard to the most famous disappearances, some say that Flight 19 simply ran out of gas, and that the Cyclops, because it was carrying too much manganese ore. The reality is that many people have lost their life in the Bermuda Triangle. As we research the area, we should strive to remember the lost. Although their bodies may never be recovered, we owe it to them to discover the truth. The mystery of the Devil's Triangle is far from solved, but who knows? Maybe one day, we'll know what really happened to all the people who disappeared without a trace.